Welcome to another episode of the Career Reset podcast. I have a very special guest with me, and that very special guest is, as I have just learned how to pronounce the name, Szonja Zsiros. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for not mispronouncing my name. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Career Reset, the podcast to help you succeed as a job seeker, by Carolina Newmanen.
Okay, so today we will talk about finding a job as an expat, which is a very fun thing to do. Finding a job in general is a very fun thing to do, but why not make it harder for yourself and look for a job in a different country, ideally in a country in which you do not speak the official language. For context, I am a Czech who lives in Finland, and Szonja is a Hungarian who lives in the Netherlands. So she is more than qualified to talk on this topic, and I will now be quiet and give you imaginary mic and let you actually introduce yourself.
Epic. That's a big question or a big ask, but I'll try my very best. Indeed, I would also like to believe that I'm more than qualified because I have experienced the misery of being a job seeker abroad on my very own skin, which was not a fun period of my life. But indeed, okay, so I'll fast forward to my experience right after university. So I studied in the Netherlands, I did my master's here 8 years ago, and I never had the intention to return to my home country, so I figured while I was still writing my thesis, let's see what the job market looks like in the Netherlands. I didn't really have any network or any ways to figure out how to job market in the Netherlands. So I basically did what every reasonable student would do. I read a lot of articles on LinkedIn. Back then, LinkedIn articles were still like very sexy. So a lot of articles, websites, YouTube videos, but I couldn't really find any resources that were specifically tailored to the Dutch job market. But anyway, the common thread throughout all of those resources was that, well, you need to have a network, which I didn't have. So I was like, let's try to figure out what I want, and let's try to target companies, which I did. It's a very long story, but it will come to an end.
It's all relevant, so keep going.
So one day, I was, for whatever reason, still subscribed to the newsletter from my university, which I obviously never read. And then this mail I happened to open, and it linked back to another mail that was shared 6 months ago, which was about a company looking for a new employee. And I was like, okay, well, they must have hired someone already, but I did really like the company, and I did really like their mindset and approach and what they were working towards. And so I decided to send them an email telling them about how incredibly enthusiastic I am about whatever they were doing, and that I appreciate that they probably have already hired someone, but because I'm incredibly enthusiastic, I would love to have a chance to have a coffee chat. So they called me, and then they called me for a coffee chat, and then 2 weeks later I had an offer. So this was first story of me getting a job as a foreigner abroad. It's a very small, so to say, boutique recruitment agency. They were specialized in logistics and supply chain. I was there at the age of 22 or something like that. I had literally no interest in logistics and supply chain, but hey, it was a job that would give me experience, that would be basically my ticket to the Dutch labor market. So I was very, very, very happy to take it. After 1.5 years, when COVID hit, I was kicked out. And so I continued the search, and I figured that since I already had experience in recruitment, I will stay in recruitment, but then maybe go to the other side, so do in-house recruitment. And because back then SaaS, so software as a service, and tech companies were booming, I figured that's where I have the most chance. So from that point onwards, I worked for 2 other software companies as an in-house recruiter, and then my last job was as an employer branding specialist. In layman terms, it means that my job was to make the company appealing and attractive and accessible for the people who were potentially interested in working for us. And then for the past 3 years, I've been working as a career advisor and a trainer together with my beloved audience, which is international millennials in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have you have seen it all, the agency life, the in-house life, the entrepreneur life. We can talk about all these areas. I wonder, would you say that your story or your experience is a common way, for example, of getting into the job market abroad, or were you especially lucky or unlucky, or how was it?
I'd like to believe that I'm generally speaking lucky in life. I also believe that you sort of make your own luck. So to address your question, I think, yeah, this is a pretty average story. You need to start somewhere, right? So you need to grab the opportunities and be a little bit shameless about how you reach out, who you reach out to. So I think you kind of need to have that cheekiness or that extra dose of confidence or bluffing at least.
And was recruitment something that you ever considered, like that would be the path?
8 years ago, what I ideally would have wanted to do was what I'm able to do now with all the experience and network and knowledge that I have built up in the last 8 years. Meaning to advise job seekers and to mainly work with international job seekers in the Netherlands. But because those kind of roles and the concept itself wasn't very popular back then. I mean, there are not even a lot of career advisory roles right now if you look at the market. Back then I was mostly targeting outplacement agencies, but again, the opportunities were incredibly scarce. So I figured, well, the best chance I have to do my mandatory internship is in recruitment.
And when you then decided that, okay, I'm gonna go to recruitment as an expat, and you, for example, shared this idea with someone, did you get encouragement that that's a good field to get into if you don't speak fluent Dutch, or?
I think back then recruitment was a rather easy sector or field to get into as an international. I think it's still true today, but I'm just cautious with the phrasing because today's job market, generally speaking, is just a bit tough. So I'm pretty sure that if I were to apply for recruitment jobs right now, I wouldn't get invited to, a ton of interviews, even though I have proper recruitment experience. So anyway, so I do think that back then it was a logical decision. So to get back to your question, I don't think that anyone told me, wow, that is the best field. I think I got enough encouragement from my friends and from my network that I knew that, okay, I was going to be okay there.
And you said that like you thought that you had to take whatever comes your way, that you didn't have in a way the right to choose. Is that something that you would advise other internationals looking for jobs, that they should just take whatever they can find?
I think if they are under a time pressure, so I work together with quite a few job seekers who are here on a visa. And if the visa is about to expire in 3 months and they have an offer that will grant them the visa, then yeah, hell yeah, just accept it. So I'm not saying that I was in a similar situation. I wasn't tied to a visa. I didn't really have a lot of other options. And would I advise internationals to take whatever job comes their way? Depends. How much time have they put into applying? Do they know what they want? Will they be kicked out of the country? So it's a bit of a contextual question.
And in comparison to the locals, what challenges did you face as an international trying to find a job?
I'd say the two biggest barriers that come to mind would be the lack of network and the language barrier.
Did you consider going that path of actually learning the language?
I did. And now I actually speak Dutch, so it's pretty good. Of course, I did consider learning the language and I did it. And I'm still learning it. And I also have a lot of clients who do the same. They are currently enrolled in language courses, but it's kind of the same as with English. I mean, we also didn't learn English overnight. And the reason why our English is on a level where it is right now is because we've been using it actively for years and years and years. And so it's kind of the same with Dutch. Like, yeah, sure, you can do all the courses, but there is only so much you can learn. At the end of the day, you need to just throw away your ego and try it. So, yeah, of course, that's a given, a language barrier. I think another important factor that I haven't mentioned yet is maybe the cultural differences, and more specifically when it comes to looking for a job. So the nuances really matter, such as, okay, how do you present yourself in the Netherlands versus how do you present yourself in other countries?
But do you think, from my extensive knowledge of the Netherlands, that is non-existent, like from what I hear, it's pretty international environment. You really need to know like Dutch working culture when applying for a job in, like, let's say business tech in the major cities.
What I mean by cultural differences is not per se that you know the culture. Every organization has a different culture, so that's very unique. What I mean is, for instance, are you active on LinkedIn? Because in the Netherlands, LinkedIn is massive. And if you're not there, or if you're not there with a complete profile, then you're technically invisible on the labor market. Or how you present yourself in writing. So the CV standards are different per country. And I know that I've worked together with quite a few clients from the US. There's a completely different way of approaching companies and presenting yourself in writing on your CV in the US as opposed to in the Netherlands. So that's what I mean with cultural differences.
So still knowing what's the local ways of approaching job search, it still helps even in an international environment.
Yeah.
And then as an international job seeker, I can either learn the language, or I can learn some other skills, or I can network, or I can post on LinkedIn. What, in your personal or career coaching experience, makes the most sense to focus on?
That's the $1 million question. Listen, I would say that learning a language is always gonna be important, but learning the language only is never or rarely going to be the sole solution. So in my very humble opinion, what I would do is I would network. And when I say network, I mean really strategically network. It's a project. When I say network, I mean understanding what you want, what kind of positions are of interest for you, what kind of sectors, what kind of companies, literally doing market research, listing the companies, stalking the people who work for these companies on LinkedIn, and then approaching them and seeing if you can invite them for a cup of coffee to listen to their story. This is what I would do. I would probably spend 70% of my time on networking, how I just described it. 25% of the time I would spend on making sure that I have a solid personal brand. So it's very clear for people who pop onto my profile what I want, who I am, what my added value is. I would be active on LinkedIn. So I would share some industry knowledge or some takes or experiences. And the remaining 5% I would spend on learning the language. Yeah.
Okay, and do you think that this is specific strategy for internationals looking for a job, or is this almost like universal to everybody looking for a job these days?
Yeah. Personally, I don't have a lot of Dutch clients. I personally think that it's more of a generic approach for everyone.
And we have almost the same approach to looking for a job, and we talk about networking quite a lot. We also hosted a workshop on that topic, and I feel like there cannot be a single person out there who's not yet sold on the idea of networking, but I still very often hear that, okay, yeah, networking, that's nice, coffee chats, but I don't have time for that. Like, I need to find a job. What would you say to someone who is in that mindset?
Yeah. Well, first I would tell them to watch the workshop. I hope it's still available on YouTube.
Yes, but it's I think it's like unlisted.
Okay.
So if you want to watch it, send me a message and I will send you a super secret link to our webinar.
And it's crazy good.
It is. It is.
It's packed with practical tips and tricks. Okay. So jokes aside, I would tell them that indeed networking is something that will pay off on the long run. So if you need a job yesterday, then I understand that you are not inclined to put a lot of effort and energy. But then I would still say that parallel to networking, once you have a solid personal brand and a solid profile, then you can start sending out applications. But then again, be strategic about it. So if you're in marketing, then know what kind of marketing jobs do you want? Like, are you then a copywriter or a content creator or a marketing manager or an SEO specialist, right? And then position yourself according to that. So I would still network because you never know. But then because there is a time pressure, I would probably put a little bit more effort on the application side.
And do you think that internationals have any actually advantage or any skills that they can maybe outperform the locals?
I do think that there is so much persistence that we can offer, and I mean, at the end of the day, what we've done is we voluntarily, or in better cases voluntarily, but we have chosen to leave the familiar behind, including family and friends, and start from scratch somewhere. So yeah,
So inspiring.
Stop it.
Like really, like I feel inspired. Like, look at me, I left everything behind. The thing is that I wanted to leave everything behind, but
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I mean. I mean, that's why I emphasize we voluntarily chose to leave everything behind.
True. Yeah, so with the privilege of EU citizen, you can country hop quite a lot and try to find your place.
Yeah, and then maybe just to add to that, like whenever I see a job description saying good stress management, or how do they usually put it, like
can work under pressure.
Yeah, like good under pressure. Okay, dude, if you're currently living in the Netherlands or Finland or abroad, who did not voluntarily choose to move, but yeah, there is as much stress and as much pressure as it gets. So
yeah, and so speaking of living under pressure, when you mentioned that you got laid off, for an international, getting laid off is a bit of an extra layer of stress because you do not have that basic network to lean on, and it can feel like starting from scratch again. And so can you talk a little bit more about that experience, how you navigated it?
How many emotional breakdowns I had and nervous meltdowns.
Count them. Describe each one of them.
Each one of them. Okay. So the first layoff happened when COVID kicked in, and I was on a temporary contract. So in the Netherlands, according to law, an employer can offer you 3 temporary contracts. And so I was on my 3rd temporary contract. And after that, if an employer wants to keep you on, they need to offer you a permanent contract. Okay? And in the Netherlands, the rights of the employees are very well protected. So if you are an employee in a permanent contract, and if the company wants to get rid of you, that is a huge hassle for them. So I was on a temporary contract, and COVID kicked in, and the company went like, well, we are a very small agency. There were 2 owners, and they decided to lay everyone off. So yeah, I mean...
So it wasn't this like a layoff in the sense that you would get like a nice severance package?
No, this was literally, hey, we have 0 revenue at the minute. We're not going to extend your contract. Your contract is going to expire in, 2 months, just so you know, heads up. And then in the Netherlands, you can request an unemployment benefit that's tied to the amount of time that you've spent in employment. Then back then for me it wasn't a lot, so I think I got 3 months of unemployment benefits, and that was usually, I think, 75% of my salary. Mm-hmm. So yeah, then I took some time off to go on a holiday.
Of course, like the responsible things when you are on a budget, you go on holiday.
I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go on a holiday, and then I'm getting the unemployment benefits, and life is good. And
YOLO.
like, yeah, how often is it gonna happen that I'm in between jobs? So,
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert: you can be laid off multiple times in your career. Like, who knew? Crazy.
Yeah, so my question was how you navigated the layoff, and your answer was I went on holiday. So I'll take it. But then you said you were laid off the second time, so
Listen,
was that a second holiday? Or?
no. So so the first time I was laid off, I went on a holiday, which means I think I spent quite a bit of time with my family in Hungary, but then I also I think we went to Portugal or Spain, somewhere in Europe, right? And then the second time when I was laid off, then I was in a permanent contract. So the company was going through a merging and acquisition. And then a month later, they also announced that, by the way, there is going to be a mass layoff. And so because I was in a permanent contract, I was offered a severance package. Yeah. So then to address your question, I did go on a holiday. I just went further away. So then I didn't stay in Europe, but I went to Asia. So how I navigated was, I'm quite a nervous person. I was just very nervous about what the fuck am I gonna do? But mostly the first time, because the second time I was like, I already had the experience.
Yeah, been there, done that.
I had gone through this before, and I usually know that it's for the better. And it's also a fantastic way to rationalize when shit things happen to you, like, it's for the better. It's for the best. And
I didn't like that job anyway.
I was gonna quit, okay? So actually, that was the case. I wasn't gonna quit because I loved my team.
Steady income, like.
Yeah, it's like steady paycheck, a huge privilege. But yeah, then they said, well, a goodbye. So we did a lot of holiday, emotional support from my parents who told me, you should look for another job. And I told them, I booked a ticket to Indonesia.
Yeah, my parents' way of supporting me through crisis is move back. Pack your suitcases and just move back, live with us, we'll take care of you. And that was such a big motivator to get my ass out of the house and start networking and find another job that it worked really well.
100%. No, they always tell me like, whatever happens, you can always move back. And I'm like, that is so not an option.
Exactly. Thank you for reminding me that if I don't put into the work, that's where I'm gonna end up. Anyway, I want to move on then to your entrepreneurial journey. Maybe you didn't expect I'm gonna take us there, but I think that's a very interesting path for an international, even like setting up the company and navigating taxes and all that kind of fun, which is hard in your own country, in your own native language, but in a foreign country, it's an additional layer of fun. So how did that decision come around, and how did you navigate it as an international?
Okay, so while I was doing recruitment, I discovered that what gives me energy the most was actually advising candidates on, hey, this is how you could position yourself differently, and this is what you could do to your CV, and if I were you, I would probably like do this with my LinkedIn profile. So I just started giving advisory sessions pro bono, and then after like 2 or 3 people, I was like, my advice works. And then my girlfriend was like, why don't you have a little side hustle and then go to the Chamber of Commerce and then register your business.
Oof, that sounds like such a scary place where I have no business, like Chamber of Commerce. That's not where I'm supposed to be.
Literally, as you mentioned, my first fear that pushed the siren in my head was like, taxes? Like, already as an employee, as a human being living abroad or just living on planet Earth, I got a minor heart attack every time I had to submit my tax forms. And I think what was really helpful for me was to talk to someone who was already in the process of being an entrepreneur in the Netherlands, although that person was Dutch, but that sort of reduced the distance. So what I initially thought of as a, wow, that's really far. Like, I have no idea. There's just so many unknown factors there. Just take one step closer and then talk to someone who's, I don't know, 3 steps ahead of you. And then they would tell me like, yeah, it's very easy. You do this, you do that. And I was like, let's go. Let's set up my own business. So for a very long time, I had it as a side hustle. And then when I was laid off for the second time, after I went to my infamous holidays, I came back and decided to give this a real shot.
And from a perspective of having a steady paycheck, which is not something that is traditionally associated with a new entrepreneur, how did you navigate that uncertainty?
If you're a starting entrepreneur, no matter what you read on Instagram, no matter which American business coach is wanting to like convince you that you can go from 0 to like
10K a month.
10K a month within like blink of an eye, they are lying through their teeth. It is major bullshit, in my experience, and also looking at the entrepreneurs in my sitting in my bubble. So how I navigated that uncertainty was basically by looking at my savings account, doing the math. So what are my monthly costs? What is it that I still need to earn to be safe? And then I looked at my savings account and I said, okay, I'm willing to invest a part of my savings into the business. And I told myself that, okay, if I fully focus, like full time on my business for 6 months, and after 6 months, I still don't have any signs of that this could be a viable business, then I will start looking for a job. And if you are asking me like, would I give a similar advice to someone who's about to start their entrepreneurial journey right now, I would probably say, if you're still employed, then try to see if you can reduce your work hours and have a steady income right now, like keep it, and then next to it, try to build your business, because I appreciate that building a business requires a full person. But at the end of the day, if because of your business, you are not able to fulfill your needs, you will start turning against your business.
I think that is like the only regret I have about starting my business is that I didn't start it sooner. While I still had that steady paycheck and I already had that idea in my mind, but I was like, don't have time, don't have energy to build my business. But at the same time, like I feel like starting a business, that's really hard if it's something like that you do after work and like, oh, let's see what happens and I'll just try. And because if you just try and wait and see what happens, nothing happens. That's the thing. But then when you have that fire under your butt that you kind of have to make this work, that's when things start happening. I want to ask that when you were working and you were going through your layoffs, it must have felt very annoying that you're very not in control of your own career, of your own situation. Is that something that you feel like being an entrepreneur, you're in a way more in control?
It's gonna be an asshole answer, but yes and no. Listen, what I learned from my psychology BA is that the best answer you can give is it depends. At the end of the day, I don't think that you have a lot of control over your life or over your career. I think there are certain things that you can do. So I personally don't believe that life is happening to me. I believe that I have a say in how things pan out, and that if I commit to something and I work and I'm determined, then it will happen. But as an entrepreneur, I have also experienced that if I do my absolute best, if I'm like super active with the networking, if I'm super active with the postings or the marketing side of things, there's still so many factors that I cannot control and that are out of my hand. I might feel that I have more control over what I'm doing, how I'm spending my time, who I'm spending my time with, very important, that I can choose that this project aligns with what I find very important. But yeah, I mean, I also take on projects because at the end of the day, I need to pay the rent, right? So that's why it's a little bit, for me, difficult to answer. And as an employee, you're basically one chain of the entire machine. So you get to say if you're unhappy whether you stay or not. But again, there is no control if you're being laid off. So, but how would you answer this question? I'm curious.
Well, I felt for most of my career as being employed that it was like illusion of safety and steadiness. And that was very much because of the type of companies where I worked in. And I think that's quite typical for internationals, that they tend to work more in like startups, smaller companies, because those companies tend to be more open towards like speaking English. But the thing is that they don't tend to be the most stable workplaces. And then I've just been several times in a situation where I can see, let's say, bad business decisions being made, and as the most junior person, my scope of influence was very low. So when shit was hitting the fan, I could just sit and wait and hope I'm not going to be the one laid off. And as an entrepreneur, if I see the shit approaching and I'm holding my fan, I can maybe put in the work, exactly what you said, accepting some contracts or something that would not be my ideal work, but I feel more in control that there's actually something I can do.
It was very interesting listening to you. Like what popped into my mind was that I remember how unhappy I was. There was just not enough challenge, and every day I woke up and I was like, who the fuck cares about this software company? Like, I can assure you that planet Earth does not need yet another software solution. Not unless it's like related to sustainability or social impact or whatever, right? And then I was waking up with the feeling of being dissatisfied, but a steady paycheck that allowed me to like travel a lot and like have a luxurious lifestyle. And as an entrepreneur, I make somewhere between 1/3 and the half of my previous salary. And then, of course, not to mention that as an employee, you get the benefits, right? But as an entrepreneur, I might go on a holiday 5 times a year, but I can also assure you that when I'm on holiday, I am thinking about, how is me going to generate revenue, right?
And it's so fancy, like, instead of how am I gonna afford bills? Doesn't sound as fancy as how am I going to generate revenue? I prefer to generate revenue over finding ways to keep a roof over my head.
Now I might have more time as an entrepreneur, and no one tells me that, okay, I only have 25 days a year. But I would need to make significantly more in order to be able to save a lot of money for my pension, all of the extra things. By the way, it's not my own thought. It was my girlfriend who was kind enough to tell me that I need to start thinking about pension.
Credits to her girlfriend. I think of a pension in the way that I'm never gonna even get there. So I'm thinking of what kind of job can I still do at 70 when I will inevitably have to support myself because I will get nothing from the government. So.
Okay, yeah. That's a fair question.
Like to bring it back, would you recommend? Based on your experience, the entrepreneurial path for internationals, and under what circumstances do you think it's something that is maybe good to consider?
100%. I mean, I'm having a blast. I am so glad that I gave myself the chance, and also that I was privileged enough to be in this situation that I could afford to do it. But I think if someone does have the urge and does feel the calling and does feel like, okay, I would love to have my own business, to try myself out and see how it's going, do it 100%, do it.
And do you think, let's say you would now have to go back to looking for a job, do you think your chances would be now better on the job market having that entrepreneurial experience?
Yeah.
Elaborate.
There are a lot of companies out there that will look at my CV and say, okay, well, you haven't been employed in 2 years. You have only had your own company,
Only.
only had your own company. So you basically did the job of 10 people. So it's just not a fit, bye. But there will also be companies who will look at my CV and go okay, well, we are actually starting a new project and we are looking for someone who is comfortable with the fact that we have no idea what we are doing, but we might have a goal or something that resembles a goal, and your job is going to be to figure shit out. So I do think that it depends on what I would be looking for. Would I be looking for a recruiter job? But I don't want to go back to recruitment. But would I be looking for a recruiter job? Then I can imagine that if someone were to see my CV and then put it next to another candidate's CV who's currently in recruitment right now being employed, they would go with that candidate. 100%. That's what I would do, probably. Because no matter how much recruiters say that we think out of the box, no, they don't.
I think that's actually the role where you think the most inside the box. When I was a recruiter and I was looking at the CVs, I was so much in the box.
And so, but just to quickly finish, but if there is an organization that is open-minded, and if the role itself is also entrepreneurial, for instance, it's like a new role, your job is to network a lot, to set up new things, set up processes, yeah, it's going to be beneficial.
So, in a way, what you're saying is that you need to look at whatever career path you want to take, you need to look at your background and you need to think in which area would that background be seen as beneficial.
First, you need to figure out what you want. And then go okay, this is what I want. Is it feasible? And if it's not feasible, then maybe it's not feasible now. But it doesn't mean that it's not feasible for forever. But then you need to figure out what is going to be the stepping stone. So first I need to find a job that's a little bit closer. So that's why I say always to my clients that you need to write shit down. So this requires a vision board.
A vision board.
Yeah, I like to visualize shit. So sure, we can write it down, but also okay, this is option 1, option 2, option 3. Yeah.
That sounds okay. So maybe a wrap-up question. Let's say you would now have to move to a different country.
Stop it.
And you would know all that you know now, and you would have to look for a job. How would you approach that to succeed in as short time as possible?
Brilliant question.
$1 million question.
Dude, also, shame on you to be asking such a great question from me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. Okay, so for the sake of this example, I'm going to pick a country because I like to be specific. So say I were to move to Italy. I don't know anything about the Italian job market. I don't know how people work there. I don't know what the standards are for sending out CVs. What I would do, I would probably do some market research. So that's websites, chat, YouTube, podcasts, Google, ChatGPT. So just read up on whatever whatever sort of information is out there. That's step 1. Step 2, I would try to get in touch with recruiters or career advisors who are working in the Italian market. And when I say get in touch, I also mean find the resources that are generated by these people. So LinkedIn is a brilliant platform because there's so much free information out there. So for me, the first step would be understanding the rules of the game that I have to play. And once I have a clear picture on, okay, this is what my CV needs to look like, this is what the Italian companies are looking for, this is how I need to present myself when I'm interviewing, and so on, then I would swing into action.
Okay, and at which point would you actually consider throwing money at your problem and hiring a career coach?
So it's a tricky question, right? Because I'm also in the field. So that's why I think
Kinda in the
I'm
field.
enough to think like, I think I can navigate this.
Yeah, but I think that like as career coaches, we can help, and I think that not everybody is even aware of what's the point. And I'm not saying that everybody out there has to hire a career coach, like absolutely not, but it's good to kind of understand that when does it actually make sense. So
Okay, then I'll do I'll differentiate between career coach and career advisor. So then I wouldn't necessarily go for a career coach because I'd be like, okay, I know what I want. Only if I didn't know what I wanted, I would go for a career coach to figure that out, which I have done in my life. And then for this specific example, I would probably contact a career advisor. Say I've been sending out applications for 3 months and I haven't had one single interview. What I mean by like sending out applications for 3 months is not that like in total I sent out 2.5 resumes or applications. I'm consistently putting effort into this. I'm spending a lot of time on it. I do believe that I understand what the trends are and what the CV should look like and how I should position myself. And still, it's not yielding any results.
so you would always try on your own first, and if it's not working out, and then what kind of expectations can the person have from hiring a career advisor? Is it that they can put their feet up and wait for the interviews to start coming, or?
I would always try on my own first, maybe fail miserably, but then at least I've tried on my own, and then ask for help based on what I'm seeing and probably also what you're seeing, that candidates or the clients never come to me saying, I have just started applying for jobs, but I could use your help. They usually go with, I have been doing this for 6 months without any results.
Yeah.
Help, because probably I'm doing something wrong.
Well, I also get people who are like, I got laid off. I was laid off already 2 years ago. It took super long and I just don't want to go through with it. So right now, when I still have the money from the severance, like I want to invest part of it in the career advisory and be done faster.
Yeah. There was another question that I didn't answer.
Yeah, that what can that person expect working with an advisor?
So both with career coaching and career advisory. So for those of you who are listening in and don't necessarily know what the difference. Okay, so coaching is when I have the coaching cap on. I do not say that, I think you should do this, or maybe you should think about doing that, but I only ask questions. So very bluntly put, coaching is a question mark and advising is an exclamation point.
That's good. Did you come up with it?
At this point, I am uncertain to say whether it was me and Chat and I, somewhere. I'm not sure.
Take credit for this.
Right. So both for career coaching and career advisory, I would say that the time commitment, the consistent work, the effort that you put into it, and also a shitty thing. Just a client asked me today this question. I told them, you have to have trust in the process. And I hated myself for it, but it's kind of true.
Boom.
I know. Slap in the face. But what I'm experiencing, or what I've experienced with clients, is that usually if I do a longer trajectory, so say 6 sessions or an 8 session long program, usually somewhere in the middle, like around session 3, 4, the client feels that they are now even more confused. And they
feel worse than when they started.
And I can tell you, that's a very shit feeling, because then they are like, I'm committed to this. I threw money at this. I trusted this career coach blindly. And now I have zero idea what I actually want with my life.
And all you tell me is to network.
And then, so that's why I say have trust in the process. It sounds very funny and very like coachy and woo-woo, but if you don't have trust in the process, it will not work. It's the same with psychotherapy. If you don't have the intrinsic motivation and if you don't believe that this could actually help you, it will not help you. So it's kind of the same. So to also give you a very like primitive answer, know as a career advisor most of the career advisors, at least that I know of, and including myself, will not do the heavy lifting for you. So they will not send out applications for you. They will help you with your CV or help you with revamping your LinkedIn profile, motivation letter, networking strategies, set up a job search strategy. But at the end of the day, it's you who has to push that apply button.
Yeah, and I really like that. And I also say often trust the process. But I think that's a tool to help yourself, because what I see so often with job seekers is that they are mentally all over the place, and I can relate because I was in the same situation. Because it's like you wake up and like, okay, what do I do? Do I send a job application? Do I edit my profile? Do I go to this event? Do I sign up for a Finnish class? Do I take online course in data analytics? And like it's 9 a.m. and you are completely exhausted, you have done nothing, and you're probably not gonna do anything for the rest of the day. So trusting the process when you work with someone else is that someone else helps you create the plan, and you can just focus on the next step, and you can let everything else go. So today we are sending out CVs and we focus only on that, and tomorrow we will do something else and we will see what that is.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think what we are as career coaches and career advisors are doing, or ultimately our job is to take the uncertainty away. So we are bringing the market knowledge, and we are basically giving a sanity check. So we are telling clients, okay, you're not crazy. This is the market now, and this is what the numbers are saying. And secondly, hand-holding / fancy way to put it is calling it accountability. So saying, how are you doing? How many applications have you sent out this week? Why 0?
It's fine, but also let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And for internationals there is extra layer of stress and uncertainty and lots of identity crises that come into it. So then it's maybe even better if you have the resources to ask for help. So if someone is very inspired by what you're saying, like I am, where should they now head to get more of you?
LinkedIn is where I live part-time. In my avatar that is currently holding an orange in front of her face.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So LinkedIn would be the go-to place, but can also.
Yeah, and I'll also link your website
to my website.
Show notes.
Book a call, which is
book a call.
But no, just drop a message on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, Szonja, I have just listened to you yapping for 1 hour 16 minutes, and it was."
I'm gonna edit it. Nobody will have to sit through 1 hour 16 minutes of this.
I just suffered through your yapping for a ridiculous long amount of time, but I have survived it, and I'm happy to report that I have now sent out this connection request. So, yeah.
Sounds really good. Any final words of encouragement to internationals out there who took the leap of faith, moved abroad, and now the great life they were expecting is not happening, especially on the career front?
And they are job seeking, I suppose.
Yeah. Who isn't? I mean, who isn't job seeking? Even the people who are working at the moment, they are out there browsing LinkedIn jobs.
I know.
Looking for something better. We're all job seeking.
Okay. My number one advice is to write shit down and to figure out first what it is that you want.
Okay, well, that's something we can all do and should do. So thank you for this. Thank you for all this advice, for being open, honest, unfiltered, and all the things that I know you for. And I hope this was helpful for everybody listening. Would love to hear what you thought. Would love to hear if you would like to have Szonja on more episodes. I would be happy to invite her. And yeah, thank you for listening, and we will hear at the next episode, I guess.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming.